Even if it is dry, I would never have done this in the past, ever. Always leave this lid off. And I guess we're gonna find out what's wrong with this thing. Throttle line that's broken, but it's fatigued in the inner housing. The old throttles had this hard plastic sheathing. It was a good protectant for when falling on the board. Most people would hold on to the grips and they would go snap back. When it snaps back, usually what happens is there's a ball in here that gets 90 basically, and the lines off the ball start to split. How to stop that is WD-40 in here every day, flooded this area and made sure it came through all the way. Like, I could almost use a whole can. And realistically, what is a can? $5? $5 through the whole line, you'll never have a problem. Spraying stuff, you're gonna want to spray right here and right here. Just a little bit, not much. Just underneath the carbon and at the back, because this thing is solid frozen. So boom, boom. So I'm doing this in stages. I might have missed a stage due to me recharging my GoPro, and I can't find my chest mount, which makes things a hell of a lot easier, but whatever. So customer was originally describing like a troubleshoot to me as to why his board wouldn't start, or the moment it would start, it would go to the water and it would shut off. And there could be so many different reasons as to why this is the case. So I took the motor out, greased the living hell out of this with, not grease, oil, WD-40. So I got it off finally. It was seized. Gone over all the wiring, gone over all the tubing, make sure there's no holes anywhere, look for things that are weird, you know, just the basics. Next step, I took the carb off and the under throttle body to look at the reed valve. Make sure, hold it up to light, look through, make sure that there is no holes, gaping holes, it's nice and tight still. So that checked off good. The motor looks good. Do I take the plug out? Actually, plug is hand tight. Looks good. Now on to the next step. This throttle broke, and being that it broke up at the throttle handle. So I've kind of talked about this on the Facebook page. I don't know if people read. Maybe they don't. Maybe they just pass on by things and don't kind of look into depth. They'd rather have a video. So here you go. Anyway, this video here is about basically throttles. This throttle, if you jump these boards, fall on these boards, and you hold on to this grip, what is going to happen is it's going to go do a 90 to the front of the board. Like, it just stretches out, because that's usually the way it works, or to the side, or whatever. But if you do not let go of this, what happens is there's a line that comes up, and at the end there's a little ball on it, and that ball, I guess it's lead, I'm not sure what it is 100%, but that ball has all the strands tied up in a nice little tight little wind. All it takes is one. You break one wind from holding onto this grip and falling. That one wind turns into 2, turns into 3, turns into 4. part of the reason is, well, 99% of the reason is usually falling and holding onto this grip. The 1% left, well, I don't think this is true, but you know, we'll just call it this anyway. I am religious about taking WD-40 and spraying it down this area and letting it roll back down this tube, which then comes down to this end. It takes a long time. The way to do it easier is have someone spray while you're doing this back and forth, working its way, the oil down the sheath to make it out to the other end. That way when water gets in there, it's not rusting stuff up and the oil's protecting everything. You will not get dirt and oil and grime in there unless you're jet surfing in dust. So, anyway, going back to the troubleshooting of this board. When this board would go and get close to the water and take off, there's a load on it, and if that load is not greater than what this throttle grip can give, this motor or this ECU, ICU, whatever the hell, this brain is going to tell this motor to shut off because it's a safety built in. So I know this for 100% fact because I spent months trying to source every item on a motor, every item in the board, every ECU, doubling up, checking things over and over and over again to then find out it was the hairs on the end that were broken, and there was like 5 or 6 left. But when we went and when we put the board in the water and went throttle it on, it was just not enough throttle to turn this thing above a certain RPM, and it basically made the motor kill itself over and over and over again. Since then I've seen people literally snap these in one go from holding onto the grip going really, really fast. I've seen it happen on board. Well, you can tell when it's about to happen if you know what you're dealing with. Now, again, this sheathing on these old throttle handles, they were the shit. They actually worked to save the throttle more than what the hell they got going on in these now. These new ones they put out, they've got like a mesh covering just some wires, man. So what I'm getting at here is, like, if you hold on to one of these new grips and 90 it, you're gonna have an immediate break. Immediate. Like 100%. It's also allowing the water to get in quicker to the whole unit. Anyway, that's I'm about to put this board back together, clean it up, tidy it up. Maybe what I'll do is I'll wait for my GoPro so I can install the line and show you how I do that. I've probably got about an hour and a half, 2 hours into it, just from overlooking things, going nice and slow, going over the motor, making sure things are good, checking out the wiring. Because, like, if you're not checking and troubleshooting the basic things, like looking in the end of these, is there any corrosion? You know, like, just simple things. Like, if there's corrosion in any of these, you got issues. Making sure this line is all solid and not crimped out on the end. Taking a look at your rubbers. This would probably be a good time to change over this one-way bearing, but I haven't been told to do that from the customer, so I'm not going to touch it, because the one-way bearing is worth money and some people don't want to spend it. So I'm doing the minimum. This cable I have, or a rope or whatever, tape it all up with the rest of the stuff on here, tape it really well, make sure it's not going to come undone, and then basically when you pull this throttle out of the board, you end up with leftover of this. Undo it, tie it back up to the new one, pull it back through, and you're done. Alright, I ran into some complex stuff that caused me, the GoPro is not, okay, where do I start here? I've pulled the old throttle handle out of the board. I am left with my security line, so I can find my way back. Otherwise I'm going to have to do it by hand, which sucks. And if you've ever done it, you'll understand why this is all the way it is. So following this, oh, and I've tied this off just so it doesn't come undone. So then it comes out the other end here. I've kind of looped everything through the snorkel. The new throttle's all hooked up. This piece is what your line goes through. There's a piece underneath here that attaches these screws. These screws, 4 screws, stainless, by the way. And when you're using an Allen key on them, you kind of get a one-shot deal. It's a stainless screw. Heads will strip really easily. This has been a saltwater ridden board quite a bit. I knew that, so I WD-40'd these down, cracked them a little, enough to get the thread kind of showing after I've let them soak a bit, and then basically go again heavily with WD-40 so it runs down the thread. Then they almost can be taken out by finger. If you do not do that and you try to pull them off without WD-40 in them, you are going to strip heads non-stop and you will never get the bolt back in. So if you want these to last, follow that routine. That is a super trick. A lot of people will not even think about that. So I've run into a problem here. The problem is this base plate underneath that is threaded for these, so you can tighten everything down. That it has broken off. So I had to do a little bit of hillbilly rigging here, and what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to epoxy this. So I've got it kind of tightened up. I had this where it was running the opposite way around. Then once that's all done, this goes in and this rubber tab fits on the top, which was underneath. I don't know why. That would have caused a lot of leakage. The other pain in the ass you're gonna realize is that all this tape job to keep all the plug, gas line fitting, all of it needs to be wrapped up because it's got to go through a little pinhole on the side of the board down here, and if it doesn't have a way through, aka getting caught up with every piece that's on the end of this, you're just gonna want to shoot yourself. So tape it up good. Use something that's not going to be a pain in the butt. I don't know, this red tape is a nightmare. You gotta cut it, rip it, cut it, rip it. Oh my god. I gotta say, the throttle cable, it's not a big pain in the butt to do, but it is a pain in the butt. There's tricks to it, and sorry I didn't show everything that I've usually I show everything I'm doing, but because this is an edited video and I'm gathering that I asked a question today if everyone was going to be interested in seeing edited versus one long video on tear down and put back together, and I'm pretty sure I know what your answer is going to be, but yeah, one day. Actually, I got a board right here, a new race that needs a throttle. I just did a throttle on this GP. So we got the wires in the board. Our next process is to fold this thing in, get it within the board. Pain in the fucking ass. Now that that is in and we know that we're somewhat safe, because I did glue this earlier and I don't want to take the chance of it busting off and me losing it, all I'm gonna do is get this placed back in through the rubber, screwed in to the bottom plate, and take out each screw individually and do this so that bottom plate doesn't drop out. It shouldn't, but if it did, I would almost have to pull everything apart to go do this all over again. So yeah, if by chance you run into the same issue, which that bottom metal plate underneath the carbon, which you cannot fit through, falls off while doing this replacement, it's gonna fall down here and you're gonna spend hours, if not, if you're lucky, maybe like 10-15 minutes fishing it back up through here, using weird tools to try and like feed it back through and get it hooked up, or pull everything out and start all over again and then get a screw in, make sure it all lines up properly, and then glue it. I use the CA glue. It's kind of like a crazy glue, but more industrial, meaning I didn't spend a lot of time on this board, but you get the picture here. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to save the customer money. I'm not trying to rip them off. Oh shit. Okay, thank God. It's really easy to lose a part, and then you get yourself like in a real messed up spot. So your plate goes down, the rubber is on the outside, not the inside. I don't know why it was in there. I didn't do this. And then you make sure everything lines up, and then pull a screw out, do it again, pull a screw out, do it again, and then you've got this all hooked up. The next one, when dealing with old string like this, and I don't have any on hand, trying to get it through that little pinhole, there is only one way to do it, and that's with a guitar string. You take a really fine guitar string and you fish this basically through with tape. Again, it's a pain, but that's the way I've done it quickly. If you tried any other way, nightmare. There's tools. You mess around with too many tools, you will rip this. Once you rip your snorkel, now water's getting in and you're flooding your board, because the way it works is water if it does come in here, there is a compartment here that runs down the side, stops here, so there's a compartment that runs along the side, up the front, and down the back here. And then there's a hole right here which allows your lines through. So if you were laying on your board for a long period of time on the water without it running, water will slowly get through these pieces along the way and work their way in to flood this section. Also at the back there's a little hole, but I'm gonna shut off, come back in a bit. Okay. I know I was supposed to come back, but I didn't. Sorry, man. Anyway, this is a customer's board, and I do take people's money into consideration. I just don't rip people off. So, this throttle. I don't even know how to explain this to people, but this line coming in attaches to the block. On some of them, they have a dovetail that go underneath here. You need to set this block to a correlation to what this is doing. Also, the way you set up your throttle is another thing. And then, in the very end, this is a brand new throttle. But again, these fucking things can never have enough grease. If you want it to run like a dream, oh yeah, like huge difference right there. And it could take a lot more, which I'm gonna feed it. So, just find amounts, work down the line. Don't be afraid to spray your board down, man. Grease is good for it. It keeps it lubed, but it also keeps it looking like fresh, and it keeps corrosion at bay. Remember, this is a water sport. You start messing with it also kind of cleans things if you do it enough. It's just every time it comes cleaner and cleaner and cleaner. Okay, the next time I turn you on, you're gonna be fired.